She had leukemia. She had known it since last summer. The moment she told me, the blood drained through my face, and a stream of dizzy images fluttered through my mind. It was as though in that brief moment, time had stopped, and I understood everything that had happened between us. I understood why she wanted me to do the play. I understood why, after the first night we performed, Egbert whispered in her ear with tears in his eyes, calling her his angel. I understood why he always looked so tired and why he fretted for me to keep coming by the house. Everything became so clear. Why she wanted Christmas for the orphanage to be so special. And why she didn't think she'd go to college. And why she's giving me her Bible. It all made perfect sense, and at the same time, nothing made any sense at all. Jamie Sullivan was dying. Sweet Jamie. No, I whispered. There has to be some mistake. But there wasn't. And when she told me again, my mind went blank. My head started to spin, so I clung to her so tightly so I wouldn't lose my balance. On the street, I saw a man and a woman walking towards us, their heads bent and their hands on their hats so they wouldn't blow away in the wind, and a dog trotting across the street, and stopped to smell some bushes. A neighbor across the way, standing on a stepladder, taking down some Christmas lights. Normal, everyday scenes that I usually wouldn't notice, suddenly making me feel so angry. I closed my eyes, waiting for everything to just go away. I'm so sorry, Landon. She said it over and over. But it was I who should have been saying it. However, I knew that now. My confusion kept me from saying anything. Deep down, I knew it wouldn't go away. I held her again, not knowing what else to do. Tears filled my eyes, trying and failing to be the rock that I think she needed. We cried together some more, a little ways down her street. We cried again when Egbert opened the door. Seeing our faces, he immediately knew that their secret was out. We cried later that afternoon when we told my mother. She held us in her bosom, and we sobbed so loudly that the maid and the cook wanted to call a doctor because they thought something had happened to my father. On Sunday, Egbert made the announcement to his congregation. His face was a mask full of anguish and fear. He had to be held back to his seat before he could even finish. Everyone in the congregation stared in silent disbelief as they were waiting for some punchline to some horrible joke that they couldn't even believe had just been told. And then all at once, the wailing began. We sat with Egbert the day after he told the congregation. And Jamie patiently answered all of my questions. I don't need all of that. She didn't know how much longer she had to live. No, the doctors couldn't do anything about it. It was a rare form of the disease, they said. A part that wouldn't recover from any available treatments. Yeah, when the school year did start, she had felt fine. It was only the last few weeks when she started to feel the effects. That's how it processes, she said. You feel fine, and then once your body can't keep fighting, you don't. Stifling my tears, I couldn't help but think of the play. But all those rehearsals, those long days, maybe you shouldn't have, maybe. Doing those rehearsals were the only thing that was keeping me healthy. Later, she told me that it had been 7 months since she had been diagnosed. The doctors had given her a year, maybe less. These days might have been different. These days, they could have been treating her. These days, Jamie would probably live. But it was happening 40 years ago. And I knew what that meant. Only a miracle could save her. Why didn't you tell me? That was the only question I hadn't asked. It was the only one that I had been thinking about. I hadn't slept that night. My eyes were still swollen. I'd gone from shock to denial, to anger, to sadness, and back again all night long. Wishing that it weren't and praying that it was just some terrible nightmare. We were in her living room the following day, the day after Egbert had told the congregation. January 10th, 1959. Jamie didn't look as depressed as I thought she would. But then again, she had been living with it for 7 months now. She and Egbert were the only two that had known. And neither of them could even trust me. I was hurt and frightened at the same time. I'd made the decision, she said, that I wouldn't tell anybody, and I asked my father to do the same. If you only had a few months to live, is that what you would want? I knew she was right, but it didn't make it any easier. For the first time, I was completely and utterly at loss. I'd never had anybody close to me die before. At least, not anybody that I can remember. My grandmother passed away when I was 3, but I don't remember anything about her or the service or the next few years that passed after her passing. I heard stories, of course, from my father and my grandfather, but that's all they were. Though my father did bring me some flowers on her grave. It's like reading something in a newspaper about some lady you barely even knew. I never had any feelings associated with her. I only felt for the people that she had left behind. Nobody in my family or my circle of friends had ever had to come for something like this before. Jamie was 17, a child on the verge of womanhood, dying but still very alive. I lived in fear of doing something wrong. Was it okay to ever get angry in her presence? Was it okay to talk about the future with her anymore? My fear made talking to her difficult, though she was very patient with me.